Hi guys, Victoria here. Welcome back to the third video from my Florence trip in April 2023. In today's video, you are going to get some information from me on how to get free admission to museums across Florence. So let's jump right in. The first museum that I visited for free on this occasion was the Accademia Gallery, which, as you can see, had a bit of a queue waiting up outside. This was just after they opened, so it was around 8:15, between 8:15 and 8:30 in the morning. They opened at 8:15, so I had to queue in line. It was a free admission day, the 25th of April, and after about maximum 20 minutes waiting, I was able to enter without having to pay for the ticket. The usual full price is 12 euros. The foundation of this gallery dates back to 1784, when the Grand Duke of Tuscany Pietro Leopoldo reorganized the Academy of Arts of Design in Florence. It is best known as the home of Michelangelo's sculpture, the David, of course. It also has other sculptures from Michelangelo and a large collection of paintings by Florentine artists, mostly from the period of the 14th to the 17th century. Giambologna's original full-size plaster model for the rape of the Sabine women is also displayed in this museum. He sculpted a representation of this theme with three figures, a man lifting a woman into the air while a second man crouches, carved from a single block of marble. This structure is considered Giambologna's masterpiece, originally intended as nothing more than a demonstration of the artist's ability to create a complex sculptural group. Its subject matter, the rape of the Sabines, had to be invented after Francesco de' Medici III, the Grand Duke of Tuscany, decreed that it be put on public display on the Loggia dei Lanzi in the Piazza della Signoria. The decisive event for the history of the museum was, of course, the transfer of Michelangelo's David from the Piazza della Signoria into the museum in 1873. The most famous sculpture in the world waited 9 years in a wooden box for the construction of the tribune designed by the architect Emilio de Fabris. To host it, the sculpture was allegedly brought to the Accademia for reasons of conservation, although other factors were involved in its move from its previous outdoor location. The original intention was to create a Michelangelo museum with original sculptures and drawings to celebrate the 4th centenary of the artist's birth. This idea didn't really become reality, but the museum still hosts a few of Michelangelo's works. My second stop on this day was the Basilica of San Lorenzo, which hosts the Medici Chapels, which are two structures at the Basilica of San Lorenzo dating back from the 16th and the 17th centuries and built as extensions to this 15th century church with the purpose of celebrating the Medici family, of course, who were patrons of this church. Entrance to the Medici Chapels is also 12 euros normally, plus if you buy online there is a 4 euro booking fee. However, on this day, on the 24th of April, it was once again for free. At the entrance floor there was a little exhibition of a lot of relics with a lot of bones of people, which I found a little bit bothering, so I proceeded to the chapels instead. So basically the chapels are divided into three distinct parts: the crypt, the chapel of the princes, which is the one that you can see right now, and the new sacristy. The crypt is the part where minor members of the dynasty were unceremoniously laid to rest, while the Chapel of the Princes is a rare example in Florence of the Baroque style designed by Matteo Nighetti, and its huge cupola and lavish interior were conceived as monuments to the greatness of the Medici. The octagonal mausoleum surmounted by a tall dome which is 59 meters high and is the distinguishing feature of the San Lorenzo church when seen from the distance. The dome was designed by Buontalenti and was begun in 1604 but was not completed until the 20th century. 6 of the Medici Grand Dukes are buried there. The new sacristy was designed by Michelangelo. It was intended as a mausoleum or mortuary chapel for members of the Medici family. Michelangelo never finished this project as he departed from Rome, so Giorgio Vasari and Bartolomeo Amananti finished the work by 1555. And now I am making my way to the Boboli Gardens, which is behind Palazzo Pitti. There are 2 entrances to the gardens, one from the side of Palazzo Pitti, but I decided to go to the further side, which is at Porta Romana. And I actually made the right decision because on this day, the Boboli Garden and the Palazzo Pitti were both with free admission, and if you were entering from the back, you didn't have to queue in line for free tickets. You could just enter, you received your ticket, and you were free to go. And in the front of the Palazzo Pitti, which I went to right after visiting Boboli Gardens when the rain has come, and then I could kind of seek shelter in the museum. There I had to queue a little bit for receiving tickets, and the tickets were handed out both for the palace and for the garden. So even if you just wanted to go to the gardens, you would have to queue. So I actually saved a little bit of time with that, but on the other side, I still had to queue for a Palazzo Pitti ticket, I guess. But yeah, I knew that it was gonna rain later today, so I wanted to go into the palace when it's raining, and that's what I did. So the Boboli Gardens are very beautiful. The Medici family established the layout of the gardens, of course, no surprise here. It has been created in this Italian garden style that would become a model for many European courts later on. The vast green expanse with a regular layout is a real outdoor museum populated by ancient and Renaissance statues. The gardens are also adorned with grottos, the most important of which is the famous grotto realized by Bernardo Buontalenti, as well as large fountains such as the Fountain of Neptune and the Fountain of the Ocean. Regular ticket prices are €10, 22 if you combine it with the visit to the Pitti Palace. On the occasion of the national holidays, on the 25th of April, which is the Liberation Day, 2nd of June, which is the Republic Day, and the 4th of November, which is the National Unity and Armed Forces Day, the museums belonging to the Uffizi galleries, Uffizi, Palazzo Pitti and Boboli Gardens, and as you could see, other museums such as the Accademia Gallery or the Chapel of the Medicis are open to the public for free of charge. In addition to that, since 2014, the Ministry of Culture, Heritage and Activities promotes a so-called Domenica al Museo, aka the Sunday at the Museum. This initiative gives everyone the possibility to visit certain sites across Italy for free, including monuments, archaeological sites, monumental parks, museums and galleries of the rich Italian cultural heritage. I will link the list where you can find the sites participating in this initiative. Among others, in Florence specifically, the Uffizi galleries, the National Archaeological Museum and the Medici Chapels can be visited for free on the first Sundays of each month. Rain has come earlier than expected this afternoon, so I had to seek shelter in the Palazzo Pitti, which is a mainly Renaissance palace in Florence, and it is situated on the south side of the river Arno, just a short distance from Ponte Vecchio, right next to the Boboli Garden. The core of the present palace dates from 1458 and was originally the town residence of Luca Pitti, who was an ambitious Florentine banker. The palace was later bought by the Medici family in 1549 and became the chief residence of the ruling families of the Grand Duchy of Tuscany. It grew as a great treasure house as later generations amassed paintings, plates, jewelry, and luxurious possessions. In the late 18th century, the palazzo was used as a power base by Napoleon and later served for a brief period as a principal royal palace to the newly united Italy. The palazzo is now the largest museum complex in Florence. The 16th century art historian Giorgio Vasari proposed that Brunelleschi was the palazzo's architect and that his pupil Luca Fancelli was merely his assistant in the task, but today it is Fancelli who is generally credited for the building. Besides obvious differences from the elder architect's style, Brunelleschi died 12 years before the construction of the palazzo has begun. Upon moving into the palace, the Medicis had Vasari enlarge the structure to fit their tastes. The palace was more than doubled by the addition of a new block at that time. Vasari also built the famous Vasari Corridor, an above-ground walkway from Palazzo Vecchio through the Uffizi above the Ponte Vecchio to Palazzo Pitti. This enabled the Grand Duke and his family to move easily and safely from the official residence to the Palazzo Pitti. Initially, the Palazzo Pitti was used mostly for lodging official guests and for occasional functions of the court, while the Medici's principal residence remained the Old Palace. It was not until the reign of Francesco I that Palazzo was occupied on a permanent basis and became home to the Medici's art collection. The Palatine Gallery, the main gallery of the palace, contains a large ensemble of over 500 principally Renaissance paintings, which were once part of the Medici's and their successors' private collection. The gallery, which overflows into the royal apartments, contains works by Raphael, Tizian, Perugino, Correggio, Rubens, and Pietro da Cortona. The character of the gallery is still that of a private collection, and the works of art are displayed and hung much as they would have been in the grand rooms for which they were intended, rather than following a chronological sequence or arranged according to the school of art. There is also the unique phenomenon of wine windows in Florence, which have been used for hundreds of years to sell wine in glass bottles without having to open a shop and thus avoiding paying taxes. These wine windows also posed a useful anti-contagion way to sell wine during plague outbreaks and more recently during the days of COVID-19, during the pandemic restrictions. When restaurants, bars, gelateria began reusing these ancient wine windows to sell their products just like 400 years ago. Two locations where I saw functioning wine windows are the restaurant Babè in Santo Spirito and the Osteria Belle Donne in the city center. I've got to be honest with you, after visiting 3 museums plus the Boboli Gardens, I was pretty dead at the end of the day, so I went for an aperitif in Le Menagerie. Yes, that sounds pretty French, and it's also a store and a restaurant, cafe, bar. There were a lot of people, like students and people working and studying when I arrived at around 5 p.m. Although it's a pricier place, I would say, so I wouldn't expect students, but well, the drink that I had was around 11 euros, so definitely not cheap, and it was just a limoncello spritz. And then I went for dinner at 6 to Zero and Son, which is the best gluten and lactose free restaurant in Florence. They also have vegan and vegetarian options. I definitely do recommend. This was the second time I have eaten here. I had lasagna last time, and this time I had a pasta, and both did not disappoint. I got pretty full. I was one of the first ones to arrive at the restaurant, but by the time I left it was completely full, and there are also seats outside in better weather. And yeah, I only recommend this place. That was my third travel vlog from Florence. Tune in for one last fourth vlog coming up in a few days. Until then, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'm looking forward to see you at my next video. Goodbye.